At the Roselle Center for Healing, we care about your health and want to help you take your health in a new direction, far from drugs and surgery. Knowledge is the key to optimal wellness and control of your health. We offer free health education on chronic health conditions and natural integrative medicine treatments. Register for free today.
Attend Adrenal Fatigue, Tired of Being Tired, on Wednesday, October 22nd at 6 p.m. Space is limited, so register today. Call 703-698-7117 or visit rosellecare.com.
Dr. Tom Roselle Live, right now, on 105.9 FM WMAL.
The information provided on Dr. Tom Roselle Live by Dr. Tom Roselle, D.C., interview guests, show co-hosts, or substitute hosts is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. It is for general information purposes only. Information from this broadcast should not replace the appropriate consultation and examination process by a licensed physician. Always consult your own physician prior to changing any current medical directive or prescription.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dr. Tom Roselle Live right here on WMAL 105.9 FM in the greater Washington metropolitan area. Glad you're here with me. We got a different program that, actually it's a program that I want to add on to. And, it's really about burnout. And we're going to continue that into the live stream. And I'm going to give you much more specific information immediately after this. And by the way, I want to remind you, if you want to know everything that I'm doing and get all kinds of data, what I'd like you to do is follow me. Follow me on Facebook. We have the office site, rosellecare.com or rosellecenterforhealing.com. We have, yours truly, rthomasroselle.com. You can find them either way. Follow me on Instagram and on Rumble and all the other. We're everywhere. So we will continue to inform you of all kinds of things that we're doing and things that you need to be aware of. But having said that, let's get into this program because it's one that is really prevalent in our society. What we're talking about is adrenal exhaustion. That means you're tired, you're wiped out, you can't get it back. There's no get up and go anymore. You get up and go, got up and left long while ago. So how do we identify it as this fight-flight adrenal problem? The adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys. There's these little ductless glands, but they're the ones that give you your drive, your willingness to go and do, that interest in getting things done. If you do not have a working sufficient adrenal system, one that is working, your heart rate is going to go a mess. You're going to be dizzy as all get out. You can't adapt, to quick and rapid changes. The fatigue is profound. It just never goes away. And that's what we want to talk about, is that fatigue, because so many of us try to fix it by doing other things, like what? Drinking a ton of coffee, drinking all kinds of caffeinated things. We try to fix it by other stimulatory patterns, these Red Bull things. We drink them by the dozen. And all we're doing is we're making things worse. So adrenal insufficiency and exhaustion is a real deal. And if you're going to live well, you have to figure out if this is something that's really your situation. So, well, I'm anemic. Well, I don't have enough iron. Well, I have to do this. I got to take these other things. And pretty soon, just for this one situation, you're taking a bushel basket full of things, or your doctor puts you on prednisone, or they're putting you on other type of adrenal stimulation, steroidal stimulation, because that's what your system produces. So we want to talk about that in a light of, is this something that you can fix, this profound fatigue pattern? Is it something that is reversible? Well, obviously, if I'm talking about it, it's reversible. There's a lot that you can do. But when you have that profound problem that even you're wiped out, even after a long day, and you slept well, and it's like, I could sleep another 3-4 days, right? Well, this could be the point that is finger pointing and saying, I got a problem here. This, this adrenal fatigue, if you will, this adrenal exhaustion can be a result simply by excessive stress on the system. So what's stress? You're putting up with pain on an ongoing basis. It just never goes away. You're taking tons of all kinds of garbage and, it just doesn't do it. You go to your doc and they put you on other steroids, they put you on this, and it just never goes away. Next thing you know, you're on a very addictive drugs. And now you're hooked on that kind of stuff. And that has a tendency not only to cause other damage in the body, but it wipes you out. But adrenal fatigue, also known as adrenal exhaustion, is, in my opinion, and many others, one of the most overlooked health problems of our time. And, we're locked into our cell phones, we're locked into our iPads, and we're constantly in a fight flight reaction, particularly in today's world, right? We're listening to all the talking heads out there. So let me say this to you, right? Imagine that you're hiking, in a beautiful place, on a beach or in the woods with, with your somebody that you love or your children, and you're walking along the shore down at Pawleys Island, and all of a sudden you look and you got your children in your hands, and there's what? There's a shark that's literally about 10 feet from you. You can see the fin. What happens then? Your heart starts pounding like crazy. Your adrenal system begins to produce something called adrenaline and many other hormones, by the way, to give you that burst of energy so you can fight. You're going to pick up your kids and you can run as quickly as you can away. Or if it's in the woods and a bear's chasing you, that bear in the woods is, can eat you, right? So the problem is this. We live in a fight-flight situation all the time. The problem is that your body doesn't recognize the difference between one type of stress or another. It doesn't recognize that your work stress relationship, your nose in your pads, you're listening to the talking heads, is any different than the bear or the shark. It's the same. Your body reacts the same way. Whether you have, a mountain lion or you've got a tiger that's coming after you, your work stress, you're working 60 hours a week, you don't cut it out. You're worried about, oh my God, the company can't make our bills. It pumps out a load of stress chemicals. When running from the lion, when you're running from the bear, when you're running from the tiger or the shark or the, and so forth, you're putting chemicals into your system so you can get away, so you can run away. Now, if those are there all the time, if you put those chemicals in your system ongoingly for, ever and forever, because you don't break the stress pattern, you have intense exhaustion at some point will take place. So what is adrenal fatigue? It's very common, unfortunately, in our society that is like ongoing, let's go, let's do this. Even if you're hooked to your pads, your iPhones and so forth. I mean, how many people are locked into their phones? You see them in traffic. Living in a metropolitan area like I do in the Washington metropolitan area, you got traffic jams and you have, problems with family and relationship issues and, last minute work projects. You got to get this done, and how long before you're going to hit that? We go to bed, our eyes are wide open all day long. Our hormones are constantly pumping all day long until we put our heads down. And then we wonder why we can't sleep, that we're wide awake. In the second part of the program today is to get into live stream. I'm going to talk about a couple of things that you need to do. So make sure you follow me and, go to drtomroselle.com and listen in on Ageless Health live stream. I'm going to show you how you can handle it. But let's talk about what really takes place. Adrenal exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, adrenal gland failure, which is absence, by the way, it reduces your body's ability to cope with stressors. You can't handle it anymore. Little things are major things. When this occurs, right, and you feel, that you can't do it anymore, all of a sudden fatigue sets in. And the fatigue has been there. You just stop fighting it. And you're having trouble tackling or completing all kinds of chores and tasks that are associated with daily living. And, you may find it even difficult to do any form of work. Can't do it. So why, how many times have you heard an older person say, I can't do what I used to do when I was younger? Well, it's because we beat our system up in many cases. And, we wonder, wow, my testosterone is going down. By the way, ladies, you too. You have to have some testosterone. My other hormones are going down. All of us, same thing. But chronic exposure to stress hormones, okay, the other kind of hormones, the cortisol and things of that nature, kills your brain cells. Did you hear what I just said? It will kill your brain cells. And particularly, there's an area called the hippocampus. Where's that? That's in the middle of your brain. It's a major memory structure in the brain. The campus, is what stores memory. And so when your stress level is so crazy over the top from so many different things, memory goes down the tube. So chronic stress patterns, chronic unrelenting stress is one of the primary contributors to this adrenal fatigue. You can't get up to go anymore. It's gone. No matter what you do, no matter what you take. So you should be asking me a question right now. So if that's the case, am I stuck? Is it just a slippery slope until I drop dead and I'm out of here? Well, not unless you don't make some changes. So what can we do? But I want to give you a statistic on this, right? One of the contributors to chronic stress is lack of sleep. And we just talked about there's a lot of reasons that you get there. And we're going to talk in the second part about proteins and things of that nature. But it's estimated from multiple sources that 70 to 80 million Americans aren't getting enough of it. That we don't sleep well. 70 to 80 million. So that's something in the neighborhood of about 25% of the US population. We don't sleep. And if you're not getting adequate sleep on the same time every day in a cool room with the lights off, you have a problem. You enter a state of stress overload. Other problems, we're going to talk about diet later on. We're going to talk about, the stimulants, which we just touched on a little bit, and caffeine products of all kinds, even chocolate. I'm sorry, ladies, chocolate's loaded with caffeine. Pain patterns that just never go away. You've put yourself into a place where you got stinking thinking, negative thinking patterns, emotional trauma that you've never dealt with. At the Roselle Center, that's what we deal with. We look at the structural, chemical, emotional platform in any situation, but particularly when somebody comes in, they say, I'm wiped out. I'm tired. I don't have anything left. We look at something called DHEA. It's one of the major hormones of the outer shell of the adrenal system. It's a master hormone. I call it the mother of all hormones. It's involved in that downstream production of testosterone and estrogens and progesterones and so forth. So if you're stressed over the top, that DHEA is not going to be produced at the levels that you need to. It goes down anyway, supposedly, but I think it's just because we're in an ongoing depressed situation. Many people are depleted completely in today's world by the time they're in their mid-30s. And then we see things like anorexia and we see kidney disease, but along with that, diabetes type 2 and autoimmune conditions of all kinds. And that system is just beat up. Now we can get into tons of it, but what I want you to know is that that depletion, that stress pattern has to do with a lot of different incoming. What I mean by that, external stresses. But here's what you need to know, right? If you're wondering if that exhaustion that you have is a result of, and we can listen, I'm going to list them for you in a second, some of them anyway. You need to look out for certain situations. Let's say that if you're wondering if your husband's attitude or your wife's indifference or your children's reactivity are all a result of fight, flight, adrenal fatigue reactions. Kids can have this as well as all of us older folks. Now, how about decreased ability to handle any sort of stress, even if it's a little stress? It's like you react immediately. You want to bite somebody. The mental fog, the poor memory, the difficulty concentrating, the morning, afternoon fatigue, the lack of drive, as we talked about a few minutes ago. Guess what? You know that fat that you get around your system, your belly, even though that you've watched your diet as best you possibly can and you don't think it's a major issue, it just never goes away no matter what you do. That's fight, flight, adrenal fatigue. You know, that libido that just never seems to come back, no matter what you're exposed to. Guys, you got to take 10,000, Viagra's to get any interest whatsoever. And you may get an increased blood flow, but there's still no drive. That's fatigue. That's adrenal shutdown. How about that craving that you get for salty foods and sweets? I'm going to talk a little bit more about that salt and your chips in a little while. How about your blood sugar dropping? And particularly when you're under stress, all of a sudden you're under stress and you get dizzy. You feel like you're bouncing off the walls and you're looking for that candy bar, that cup of coffee. How about the blood pressure? Goes up, increases your heart rate, and then drops down like a rock. Goes both ways. And you sit there and say, oh my God. And you get that postural hypotension and your blood pressure is dropping. And then you go to the doc and they tell you have Addison's disease, or worse yet, that you have POTS, right? Positional orthostatic hypotension, which is really just adrenal fatigue. And you keep getting these infections. They never go away, or your body won't heal. Wounds just keep showing up all over the place. How did I do that? I don't know. It's because you're wiped out, my friends. So there's ways of diagnosing this, and we do it all the time. And there's actually stages of this. There's primary adrenal insufficiency. Medical community calls this Addison's disease. And it occurs actually when you get to the place where the adrenal system has been damaged. So you don't want to wait that long because all these symptoms are showing up before you get to the place where it's shut down. But that's usually a result of autoimmune diseases, infections, and tumors. Now, you have another pattern. They call it secondary adrenal insufficiency. And that's when that master gland, your pituitary gland, doesn't produce enough of its steroids, something called ACTH, adrenal corticostimulating hormone. It tells your adrenal system what to do. Now, it's not that the adrenal system can't work. It's just that it's not working. That comes from trauma to the head. It could be one of the 22 bones of your skull locked up and not moving the way it's supposed to. And it's often a result of blows or traumas or positional things that cause, or an inflammatory reaction. And then there's another piece that they talk about, and it's called tertiary insufficiency. Now, we've all heard about the HPA axis, right? Hypothalamus, right? P, pituitary, A, adrenal system. And it's part of your brain that regulates that little gland called the pituitary. And if damaged or not functioning properly, that hypothalamus is the regulator, but nothing else is going to work. Downstream's not going. There's a way of testing that, and we do it all the time. We'll test a muscle. Interesting. Here's, and I'll tell you part of what we do. You test a muscle. If the muscle's working, we'll call it strong, meaning it's facilitated properly, and you gently touch the hair, just kind of glide over the top of it very gently, and you immediately test the muscle. If the muscle weakens, that's phase one piece. There's 3 phases. Second is that you gently pinch the skin and test the muscle. If the muscle weakens, then you go to the 3rd piece and you blow on the skin and test the muscle. If that weakens, get all 3 of them. That tells you that the hypothalamus is not working the way it's supposed to, and that whole adrenal pituitary pattern is going to be suppressed. And then you end up with the symptoms, if you will, of insufficiency. And that can include, as we said, profound fatigue. You just can't get it together anymore. And go the other way, you get weight loss. Instead of putting on the weight, all that belly fat, when it's really at its worst end, the weight comes off because your body can't build muscle. You can't get the things that you need to have. And then you get darkening of the skin. So all of a sudden, if you see your skin is changing color as time is going on, it doesn't have to be you got real old, but if this is untreated, adrenal insufficiency can lead to very serious complications. And that's where we get the Addison's problem. And it can be life-threatening. But you have to deal with this thing because it leads to a shortened lifespan. It leads to cardiovascular problems. It leads to not being able to sustain any kind of external stress patterns, get into stinking thinking negative thoughts. You get profoundly dark in many situations. And then other symptoms I may not even recognize, right? Like abdominal pain, tenderness, rapid heartbeat. You're confused. You can't think through things. You can actually go into seizure patterns, and it can lead to coma. Look, if you're feeling fatigued, if your muscle hurts, if you have muscle weakness, if you have lost the ability to loosen yourself up, that has to do with adrenal fatigue. I listened to all the sales jobs on I've lost my hair. Ladies, this particularly directly relates to you as you get older. One of the reasons that you lose your hair is because your hormones aren't balanced properly. This adrenal system that we just talked about has to do with that. There's ways of reversing it. On the 22nd of October, coming up just in a couple, 2-3 weeks, we're going to do an in-house program on this very specific topic. I'm going to show you how to get out of it. But I'm going to give you some clues today as we go into the live stream as well. So make sure you follow us there. But look, there's a lot of things that you can do. You got to get rid of the pain. You have to learn how to meditate and pray. You have to go to bed at the same time all the time. You have to put yourself into a relaxation state and learn how to do it. Does it happen the first time you do it? No, it's going to take some time. There are very specific things that you have to eliminate. You've heard me talk about them, right? Sugars, sodas, coffee, black teas, fast food, alcohol, and so forth. Now, you have to look at different nutrition patterns. You have to eat a lot of green leafies. You have to make sure your protein levels are nice and high. You have to make sure you're getting B complex in your diet. We have to look at something called 5-HTP, which is the precursor to something called tryptophan, which helps you sleep, right? And it upregulates your serotonin in your brain, which makes you feel better. We have to look at phosphatidylserine and also something called phosphatidylcholine and also something called DMAE. They all work to help protect the neurological transmission from the brain to the adrenal system. And then there's other supportive patterns as well. And adaptogenics, that means it's up or down, regulates certain things to help your mood. And then our old friend, vitamin D. Start with that. You need to be getting that vitamin D level up. The other day I heard something that really, I didn't understand. This woman went to her doctor and she told me when she came in that her vitamin D level had been low. This was a new patient. And I said, okay, so what'd you do? Said, well, my doctor put me on 50,000 units of vitamin D once a week. I said, really? Okay. So I already got a knee-jerk reaction because it's decifral D2, it's not D3. And he said, yeah, once we get it up, to where it should be, we can stop it. No, because then you go right back into the knee-jerk reaction. Unless you're going to be outside 45 minutes a day with about 3/4 of your body exposed to the sunlight, you're not going to get any vitamin D that you need. And as you get older, your skin gets tougher. Look, join me on the 22nd, and we're going to give you a lot of insights on how to fix this. We're going to talk about why you're so stressed out all the time, why your fatigue level is at a place where you can't do anything anymore. You don't feel like getting up and moving. I promise you're going to learn a lot. And if you did nothing else but implement the things that we're going to set aside, and what I told you today already. Now join me on the live stream. We're going to go directly there. I'm going to get into this a little deeper. I want you to understand that get up and go, got up and left, that emotional pattern, the mood changes, the reactivity that you have are often tied to adrenal weakness, insufficiency, inability. You can make the changes. You can improve the quality of your life. You can turn things around if you make a decision to do something other than just say, oh, what can I take for this? Oh, what can I do? Anyway, join me. Don't forget to follow me on all the social medias. Remember, I continue to do this after all these years for one reason only. You deserve the information, but I love you all. Okay, let's go. I'll see you in live stream in just a second.
Breast cancer is a major health risk to all women. It can silently grow uninterrupted for years. The Thermography Centers of Fairfax reminds all women to conduct monthly and annual breast exams. Consider a thermography scan from the Thermography Centers as an adjunct to your routine breast exams. Digital infrared thermal imaging is safe and non-invasive. For more information and to schedule an appointment, call 703-520-7591 or visit thermographycenters.com.
Neuromuscular dentistry is more than just teeth and gums. Temporomandibular joint disorder can be painful, and only a skilled neuromuscular dentist can diagnose and treat it. If you are in pain and suffering from TMD, call the neuromuscular dentistry experts at Soft Touch Dental Care. Learn more about TMD and how Dr. Michael Chung has successfully treated his patients. Call 703-319-6990 for a complimentary consultation or visit bestinsmile.com. That's 703-319-6990 or visit bestinsmile.com.
At the Roselle Center for Healing, we care about your health and want to help you take your health in a new direction, far from drugs and surgery. Knowledge is the key to optimal wellness and control of your health. We offer free health education on chronic health conditions and natural integrative medicine treatments. Register for free today.
Attend Adrenal Fatigue, Tired of Being Tired, on Wednesday, October 22nd at 6 p.m. Space is limited, so register today. Call 703-698-7117 or visit rosellecare.com.
This is Dr. Tom Roselle. After 43 years of practice and over 1 million patient visits, the Roselle Center for Healing knows what works and knows how you can take control of your health and wellness. My team of doctors practice 21st century integrative medicine. Whether you suffer from chronic pain and fatigue, allergies or headaches, we can help. Take charge of your health before it's too late. Make an appointment today. Call 703-698-7117 or visit online at rosellecare.com. That's rosellecare.com.